Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Joy Business Report. Coming up this morning, VAT revenue grows by more than 90% as enforcement actions yield results. We hear from the Ghana Revenue Authority. Also, economist Professor Charles Acker calls for value addition to the country's raw materials to drive trade surplus and deepen industrialization. And Ghana's savings from oil exports since commercial production declined marginally to $1 billion. Details coming up. Hello to you if you're listening from Coverdia on KTU Radio. Happy to have you tune in. First up, value-added tax collections have seen a significant growth of more than 90% year-on-year over that of 2022. That's according to data from the Ghana Revenue Authority. Speaking to journalists after an enforcement exercise in Accra, the head of enforcement and Assistant Commissioner Joseph Annan said the growth in VAT revenue is due to some measures by the authority, including its enforcement operations. Here's more in this report.
Assistant Commissioner Joseph Annan has confirmed an improvement in VAT collection as a result of the enforcement exercise which began last year. He noted that collection of VAT has increased by 90% year-on-year since 2021. That in attribute to operations which include the electronic VAT system and other tools introduced by the GRA.
Last year, May, the collection for VAT was 646 million cedis. This year, May, it has jumped up to 1.2 billion averagely. That is by Bank of Ghana Governance report on how well the economy has done. And that is the established collection for VAT, which works up to around 92.4% increase in the growth of VAT. That is if you have to do year on year.
Mr. Anand further sounded a note of caution to other businesses in the various regions that Accra is just the starting point and very soon the operation team will be in other regions.
We've started, and once we are able to make some good deals in Accra, we will extend to other areas.
Eben Sabute's report for Joy Business.
Economist Professor Charles Acker has entreated government to ensure the export of the country's raw materials is focused on value addition and industrialization. According to him, value addition is the sustainable route to creating a robust economy whilst boosting trade surplus. Figures from the 2022 Trade Vulnerability Report show that the value of imports exceeded that of exports by $4.5 billion in 2022. Speaking to Joy Business, Professor Acker called for a reset of the economy from the old age style of exporting raw materials and importing finished goods to a manufacturing-oriented, export-led and job-centered economy.
Process our gold, we are going to process the cocoa. That creates job for the youth that are unemployed, and that adds value to the cocoa beans, and then you can export and get more export revenue. When you do that, then you always have a trade surplus. That means that you export more than you import. You have a lot of large, maybe say 10 billion. Some countries have about $30 billion of trade surplus. We are now recording about 4.5 billion trade deficit. So that means that we need about 4.5 billion cedis every year to be able to meet up with our import bill. That's not good enough. And then you turn up going back to the IMF to borrow 3 billion. So we need to look at trade and know how to export more so that we can get more export revenue.
You heard economist Professor Charles Acker. Ghana's savings from crude oil exports since it started producing oil in commercial quantities have declined marginally. The Ghana Petroleum Fund's report showed that it dropped to $1 billion ending June this year. Here's Georgia Afe with more.
In June 2022, the balance in Ghana's accounts in the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, USA, stood at $1.2 billion. However, fast forward to June 2023, and this amount reduced to $1 billion. A careful look at the account shows that an amount of $83 million was withdrawn on this account, ending June this year. However, we don't have fine details of the accounts to establish the exact date the withdrawal was done. Ghana's savings from oil exports and production has been put into the Ghana Stabilization Fund and the Ghana Heritage Fund. The country's laws requires that part of these earnings should be put in the Ghana Stabilization Fund so that government can fall on in times of crisis to finance the budget. On the other hand, the Ghana Heritage Fund is meant for future generations so they can benefit from Ghana's oil find. The Ghana Stabilization Fund currently has $134 million in it, whilst the Ghana Heritage Fund has $962 million. This brings the total amount in these two accounts to $1 billion. Again, a careful look at the accounts have raised questions about the returns on them. This is because the laws that guide the petroleum funds actually restricts on areas that it can be invested.
Georgia, I feel with that report, government has been advised to harness the opportunities of businesses that are generating lots of money around sports. This is after estimates show that sports betting is expected to generate $180 billion globally by the end of this year. Even though the government has introduced a 10% withholding tax on winnings of sports betting and lottery, tax analyst Francis Timoboy argues that policymakers must not only concentrate on taxes but explore other opportunities around the area to benefit from the whole industry.
I think it's significant. If you look at the industry, the betting industry, 2016 it was valued at $70 billion. 2023 it is estimated to be $182 billion. So the industry is growing at a very fast pace. And you can see the players even sponsoring football games. These days, when they are playing Premier League, you see them sponsoring. So I think it's possible. The only threat I see is that
tax analyst Francis Timoboy. Now, as the National Labour Commission prepares to begin hearing on the dismissal of some 3 workers of Sunan Asogli today, the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations is upbeat about a positive and sound outcome on the matter. According to Sector Minister Ignatius Bafwewa, all avenues will be explored to ensure justice is served. Speaking to Joy Business, Bafwewa said although the case is still before the NLC, he is confident of a better outcome.
Yes, we've not come to a finality on it yet, so we'll continue to explore all the avenues that are available to us so that justice will be given to that whom justice is due. So what I do know that the case is before the ministry and the commission, and we are still working on it. We have not come. We've not actually closed the docket on it yet.
Minister of Employment and Labour Relations Ignatius Bafwewa. Think tank CAS International is calling on all relevant stakeholders to break trade barriers to make the harmonization of protocols of the African Continental Free Trade Area successful. According to retired Justice of the Supreme Court and Board Chairman of CAS International Ghana, Jones Doche, forging strong trade agreements will provide equal opportunities for all parties to take advantage of common markets. He spoke at a partnership event organized with GIZ on building momentum towards